All right, let's get started. The 10 biggest lies of the enemy and how to combat them. The 10 biggest lies of the enemy and how to combat them. We are on day 12. Today we are getting in, we're wrapping up our reading about lie number 1. Okay, I don't want to say that we're wrapping up lie number 1 because we combat these lies the rest of our life. Okay, so we're just addressing and learning about lie number 1, and today we're going to focus on the spiritual practices. We'll be introduced to a prayer of renunciation, and then beautiful Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Okay, so she's our saint that we're learning a little bit about today. So I just want to remind you guys that what we're on here is a journey, okay? It's a journey. It's a journey of healing. It's not like we're in a time machine and we can just fast forward to when we're finished, all right? It's a journey. And in many ways, it's like a pilgrimage because, a pilgrimage is more about the sacrifice and what you sort of endure or give up along the way to the holy place or wherever it is that you're going to discover or to learn about. Okay, so it's a journey of healing, but in many ways it's more like a pilgrimage. In no way is this a fast track. Okay, it's just not. It's not a fast track. It's a journey, and it's wrap your mind around the fact that this is a journey that you get to continue on the rest of your life, because we don't ever have to go back to the way it was. We don't ever have to go back to that bondage. Okay, it's a journey, and it's a daily effort. It's a daily recognition. All right, life will be different from here on out. So I want you to find excitement in that, in a way. Okay, it's going to be painful. We're going back and we're looking at junk, right? And that can be painful, but that pain is not without a beautiful end. It's this plucking. So just remember that, okay? As we continue to dive into this, we're really just getting started. We've got 10 lies that we're digging into, and we're just finishing up lie number 1. So the spiritual practices today, the author introduces us in a way to 2 spiritual practices. The first is helps us to draw closer to God, because this lie that I am alone has us drawing back and isolating. And so, he recommends that we have, at the end of the day, an evening reflection of where we saw Jesus present in our lives, or even in the when we look through the events, where have we seen Jesus? What I want to caution you against, and it's a practice that we have to come into, because when we've had the same message on repeat in our mind over and over again for years, sometimes 30, 40 years, okay, we can have a new experience and refuse to let that be a new statement that we make to ourselves. So when you have this prayerful pondering of where did I encounter Jesus today, if you don't take a specific note of that and allow it to counter that untruth, or that I'm alone, if you don't allow this new experience to be a new truth, then you're going to continue to repeat the same lie over and over in your head, regardless of this new experience or this new recognition that you've had, okay? It's up to us to acknowledge the presence of God in our life, to acknowledge whenever His provision has come. It could be very simple things, okay? There's no such thing as coincidence. There's no such thing as luck. That's a falsehood, okay? Whenever God is present, relevant, whenever you see Jesus in a person, whenever you have these experiences that fulfill you in some way, when you are not alone, you have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that, even if it goes against that recording that's been playing over and over again in your mind for years, okay? We have to allow these experiences to renew our mind. It goes back to that familiarity. If you've just been saying, I'm alone, or nobody loves, if we've been playing that over and over again in our mind and we don't allow a new experience to come in and transform that, that's on us. Okay, that's on us. So we have to be keenly aware of that, which is why we have to go in at the end of the day and just with that prayerful pondering, where have I seen Jesus in my life? Where have I seen him? Was it in the beauty? Was there something that touched me? Was there a person? The author gives an example of a need that he had that, was met, and that he allowed his maybe his lie of aloneness to be reframed, that God showed up in the detail and delivered for him. We have to be willing to see the difference that Jesus has made, where we may have been shutting out that observation, okay? He has never left us alone. It's the lies of the enemy that would have us believe that we are alone, all right? We have to do some work with renewing our mind as well, all right? These new experiences and these new revelations we just have to acknowledge them for what they are. That's our responsibility, okay? So, just because it doesn't fit the script, that's what I have written down. Just because it doesn't fit the script that we're used to or that we've become familiar with, it goes back to that love-hate relationship with our misery. All right? Nothing is coincidental. There's no such thing as luck. They're picking up my trash. It's getting a little loud. All right. So the other thing, the other spiritual practice will draw us closer to others. And this is going to be a tough one, you guys. I know it's going to be hard. All right? It is our instinct to withdraw. It's our instinct to close in on ourselves. That lie that I am alone prompts us, the author says, to hide, withdraw, protect, and withhold from others. So we have to embrace a spiritual practice that opens us up to that. And you have to remember that Satan would be the one that would have you distracted. Satan would be the one that would tell you don't have time for it, that it's too painful, that you don't want to go there, or that there's nothing there. That would be Satan that would keep you from embracing these spiritual practices, okay? Just remember that. And you have to decide that he ain't getting you today. Not today, Satan, okay? You have to make that decision, all right? So, we talk about this process of forgiveness. In no way, in absolutely no way, does forgiving someone mean that what happened was all right. It doesn't mean that it was okay. It doesn't mean that it didn't hurt. It doesn't mean that it wasn't completely wrong. It doesn't mean that, okay? Forgiveness is not easy. Forgiveness is not easy. We have to forgive in order to be free. We have to forgive in order to be free. To enter into forgiveness is to put into practice the healing response of the gospel to the lie that we are not made for or worthy of relationship. And so he talks about this litany of forgiveness. You guys, this will be an ongoing list, whether it's actually written down or whether it's a mental list for the rest of your life. Because God will continue in his mercy and his abundant love for you to continue to reveal areas of your life and people that you need to forgive. He will. Once you open up yourself to this desire to forgive for freedom, okay? He will. He'll continue like an onion, a layer at a time. He will. So it's beautiful, the way that the author invites us in to write our own litany of forgiveness. And he gives us a little bit of, a few examples. But we start off by thanking the Father. We always start off by thanking the Father. Thanking him for the gift of forgiveness that he offers in his son Jesus, that he offers for us. And then he gives us the example, for the time when my father refused to come to my wedding, with your grace, I forgive him, Lord. with your grace. You notice it doesn't say, by my own strength I forgive him, Lord. No, with your grace I forgive him. With your grace I forgive him. We all have our own litany of wounds and pain and abandonment that we have to, that have hurt us, that we have to forgive people for. We all have it. For the time when my spouse chose to go out with friends rather than spend time with me during our planned date night, with your grace, I forgive him, Lord. Notice that even those two things right there, one of them is sort of small and one of them is sort of big. This litany of forgiveness is going to range from small little wounds and pains to really, really, really big wounds and pains. You know, for my sister who sexually abused me throughout my childhood, I forgive her. With your grace, I forgive her, Lord. For my mother who chose to do drugs while she was pregnant with me, with your grace, I forgive her, Lord. For my neighbor who exposed himself to me and made lewd comments toward me, with your grace, I forgive him, Lord. For my pastor who ignored my pleas for help, with your grace, I forgive him, Lord. For my neighbor who didn't come to my aid when I called out for help when I fell down in the middle of the road, with your grace, I forgive him, Lord. Anything that has wounded us, that has hurt us, I know there's probably 50 things that come to your mind. Okay, here's the beauty of this. I want to share with you a beauty of this. I've been on this healing journey for a long time. You get to a place where you don't even really remember a lot of the things that you've forgiven people for. All right? It's a grace. It's a grace. Once we decide that we're going to forgive, the heavens open and come down to help us. But many times just this act of forgiveness will heal physical wounds, physical bondage, physical ailments that have manifested because of this lack of forgiveness, okay? It heals spiritual bondage, spiritual wounds, emotional bondage, anxiety. You guys, this act of forgiveness is so powerful. I've seen it. I've seen people be healed of things by simply forgiveness. Forgiveness. You know, by your grace, I forgive the drunk driver who crippled me. By your grace, I forgive him, Lord. It's beautiful. We have to get to this place, not by our own strength. Not by our own strength, just our own will. That's all it takes is our own free will. Not by our own strength, but by His. Not by our own strength, but by His. You have to spend some time here in this litany of forgiveness. You have to spend some time here. You have to. Okay? The hurt that you feel is real. The abandonment that you feel is real. What people have done is real. It's real. Don't allow Satan to use that to keep you in bondage, to block off the graces that you receive from heaven. Don't do it. Don't do it. Whatever it is, don't allow Satan to have that control over your life. God gave you a gift of free will. God gave you a gift of free will. He's going to help you. You just have to trust Him. You just have to trust Him. Okay? Forgiveness doesn't mean that the wrongdoings were okay. It doesn't mean that at all. Okay? It doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. But you have to forgive. or you'll never be free. That's the truth I'm going to speak to you today. You have to forgive or you will never be free. Doesn't mean you have to continue to expose yourself to people who hurt you. Doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean you have to continue to go back into those places that cause you pain. It doesn't mean that you have to continue to expose yourself to that. It doesn't mean that at all. Forgiveness is an act of the will. It's an act of the will that frees up your entire being. Just know that. I think sometimes we confuse ourselves. We get confused. Satan is the master of confusion, but we get confused with what all forgiveness, means. Doesn't mean we have to keep going back for more. Many times we're not called to do that. We're not called to do that. We're not called to be a martyr or a victim. God will tell you very clearly if he wants you to go back there, okay? Don't let Satan guide your steps there either, okay, out of guilt or any other number of things, all right? But we have to go to this place of forgiveness. The effort that you are willing to put into this work that we're doing will directly affect the level of freedom that you gain, okay? The effort that you're willing to put forth. It's not by your own strength, but it is by your efforts. It is by your willingness to go there, okay? And remember that Satan would have you distracted. Satan is the one that would have you distracted. He is the one that would keep you from diving into this, okay? I believe 100% that you didn't get this book by chance. You didn't get this book by accident, okay? You're not here on this call by accident, all right? Don't let Satan steal it from you, okay? Don't let him steal it from you. But if you skate over it, if you just glimpse over it and come back to it later, it's still going to be there, okay? What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? All right. So then we get to look at Mother Teresa. I think everybody knows who Mother Teresa is. She was a mystic. She was actually a nun of a different order. She was a sister of a different order, of a teacher whenever she had some profound experiences that led her to seek permission to start her own apostolate and her own order. And so the Missionaries of Charity began. She heard Jesus speak to her. She heard Jesus say, "I thirst." And that led her on a journey. And so she was quite a woman. She won a Nobel Peace Prize. She spoke at the National Day of Prayer. She was very small woman of stature, with a small voice and a very big message, a message of love. So you can just learn a little bit about her. She did suffer from the dark night of the soul, where she felt very absent of God, and we know that because of her letters. There's a movie on Netflix, I think, about her, even called The Letters, but it's letters between her and her spiritual director that we learn much about what she suffered with. But she always had joy. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. So even though she suffered from great darkness, she still had joy, and she still continued to, love God for the sake of God, not because of what God did for her. So press into this guy today, go back and revisit. I believe and I know that God will continue to reveal things to you. Remember to continue to press into any inner vows that you might have made from a place of judgment. Remember that in a spiritual realm, whenever we make a vow from a place of judgment, it connects us. It keeps us connected to that very thing that we despise. All right? We don't gloss over those things. If you need to go back and revisit that information in those earlier chapters, do that. Remember, in the comments section, I posted some more detailed information about vows and judgments and the wounds, and how that can become strongholds in our life. This is information, okay, for us that we're taking on our journey of freedom. So I hope you guys just have a very fruitful day. These spiritual practices and this prayer of renunciation, do that when you're ready, all right? If you haven't gone through your litany of forgiveness, I just recommend that you do that before you do your prayer of renunciation. And that prayer, the prayer of renunciation, you know, that's personal, and you add into it what you need to add into it. Okay? But it's not a one. It has great power, okay, immediately, but Satan's not going to continue to try to attack you in your areas of vulnerability, all right? So you keep these prayers of renunciation, and you continue to renounce. You continue to renounce. Freedom, you will gain more and more and more and more and more freedom, all right? But a crucial part of freedom is forgiveness. So open yourself up to that willingness to forgive. All right. Okay, brothers and sisters, be blessed today. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and we'll begin line number 2. God bless you.